Oh, well, hello there to my beautiful subscribers. Thank you so much for being subscribed to this newsletter. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel, maybe? You should hit subscribe. Okay, so we are talking about Scorpio season in 2023. So Scorpio season starts on October 23rd and it ends on November 22nd. So right about going through Halloween time all the way up to the day before Thanksgiving. There's a lot that's happening planetarily speaking, and there's a lot that's happening on the overall cosmic currents of the year. So let's get into it. First of all, for Scorpio season, I want to talk about three cards that I pulled before when I was making my notes. I pulled the Five of Swords, Page of Pentacles, and the Eight of Cups, for those of you who know tarot. So that what that really means for those of you who maybe don't. You have to be the ability to be willing to invest and build in yourself is going to be stronger. People around you might be a little bit more selfish, and you should probably follow that trend. This is a great time to have eyes on your own paper and your own projects. I believe that the universe is a university for souls, and Earth is a particularly difficult university because it's self-driven learning. So there is a lot that is on our own unique plates right now, course load wise, and it's really important that it's sort of like time to hunker down. And if you do that investing in yourself now, you're going to be more on the surfboard as the wave is coming up. So this is the time to start paddling in that department. So if you're watching videos like this, you're already on the right track. You have to walk away from old power structures, old power dynamics, including ones where you were in power. So what I'm sensing that in my own personal work on my desk, where I see that most of these old power structures are what I give power to and why. And those things are being diffused. Because I got a lot of anxiety around making these videos and producing them. And honestly, at one point I just had to say, you know what? This would be so much more enjoyable if I just didn't get into this insecure mind space with myself. So what if I just brazenly decided not to? And just not participate in that kind of exchange at all. And all of a sudden, I gain so much more energy back from changing that decision. So these are the kinds of power structures that you now have to disintegrate and allow them to do that. Scorpio season is that deep work of being down at the bottom of the ocean in your stuff and learning how to manage coming up slowly and learning when to level off and learning how to bring yourself up from these depths. Scorpios in general, if this is birthday season for you, you know that life has taught you how to be in the depths of emotion and sit and stay there and learn how to depressurize in your suit and manage your air. So there's a lot to that metaphor for some of y'all. Okay, so the diminishing of distrust of self is what we can all reap the most from Scorpio season, because when we distrust ourselves, we mess with the calibration of our own intuition. For those of you who are intuitives specifically, that kind of distrust in yourself and doubt starts to mess with your antenna. And then what you receive has that little bit of doubt and distrust in it. And that's when a lot of other things like fear can happen and trickle into what you're trying to receive, and it just doesn't really work. So the diminishment of trust of self happens not in that intuitive receiving space. It happens in the real world out in front and with the people. So when you're doubting yourself and holding back, that kind of stuff is why are you not trusting in your voice and what you have to add to the conversation and your perspective? That kind of thing. So let's break down the planets that are making movements throughout Scorpio season. If you follow me on Instagram, and you really should, you can check out Meta Mondays. Every week we're going to be talking about the planetary movements happening that week. When I break down a conversation to that level, it's going to be a little bit different than what we'll have here. So it's still worth kind of making some notes in your calendar of when these planets are moving and what might be trending for you in the cosmic currents. So the first thing is, before Scorpio season starts, the day before, the Sunday before, when this newsletter is hitting your inbox, hopefully, yes, it will, Mercury is moving into Scorpio. So Mercury is joining the conversation that the sun is already going into the next day, and Mars has already been working in the Scorpio department. So Mars has been heating up the stove and the pan, and now Mercury is adding some oil into the pan. And then when the sun hits, it's all right, what we've been focusing on is actually going to be able to cook down and process and be digestible for us. And that's follows suit with the conversation we've had before this. So that's happening on Sunday the 22nd. Then on Monday the 23rd, the sun moves into Scorpio. So the specific notes that I said are that when Mercury moves into a water sign like Scorpio, it's sort of like very medicinal. It reminds me of an aquifer purifying the groundwater. So we are having to move through and navigate through the porousness, the spaces between the things that are and what we have to work with and what can't be moved. So Mercury is going to help you figure out how to navigate and figure out what you can control and what you can't control, because what you can't control, leave it alone. What you can control, stick with it, and that's what you put your energy into. Seems obvious, but sometimes when we're lost in the waves, it is really hard to know it. So, and bear that in mind. When Scorpio season hits, I drew the sun card for this. Nourishment is coming. The hope that rain will come and nourish you, that's there. The card itself, I'm working with the Fountain Tarot deck during Scorpio season, and the sun card in that image is just so delicious and nourishing when you look at it. It feels the way that like a deep breath feels in the body, how it just feels like a cupcake, and it's so delicious. That kind of nourishment is happening during Scorpio season. So if you're jiving into, getting into fall, if you're in the northern hemisphere and you're getting into like the spirit of that change and that energy, and you're tethering yourself to that seasonal vibe, you're going to get a lot of nourishment coming your way from it. So then by the end of this first week in Scorpio season, we have the full moon in Taurus. So the full moon in Taurus is going to pose a particular question to you. This full moon is asking, are you using all of your potential energy to its fullest? So in physics and chemistry, some of you might remember potential energy into kinetic energy. So potential energy is sort of like filling the room with gasoline, and potential energy is like lighting the match. So potential energy building, it's beautiful, but to hold potential energy and only stay with potential energy, that creates a toxic feminine energy for you, and eventually will create almost like a space where the potential energy cannot move into kinetic because it's so used to being static and it's become too dense and immovable. This full moon is going to show you where you're doing that in certain places, and honestly probably give you a harsh push so that things can move into kinetic. It might be a little bit of anxiety inducing. But when you are filling with what feels like excess energy, it's almost like the engine's revving up. Realize that that's because spiritually you're being moved to go in a direction and do something with this energy. What is that thing? So, then a week later, Saturn ends its retrograde in Pisces. This is actually really lovely. So when Saturn ends its retrograde in Pisces, that is on November 4th. I want to make sure I read my notes correctly because I did a weird line thing. So Saturn is the great teacher in the sky. Everyone is ruled in some way by Saturn during their lifetime because of their Saturn returns. It's something I've talked about in videos. It's something that we might talk about if you are in the age range of like 22 to 35. We'd probably talk about it if we did a birth chart reading together. Which go to my website and check out those services because they're very helpful for many people, especially when they're in big energy like the Scorpio energy. Back to Saturn. So Saturn retrograding in Pisces. Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac. It's this like big primordial ooze. It's all the signs rolled into one. I have the hardest time calling out Pisces, like when I'm playing Let Me Guess Your Sign, because they read like different signs to me. I see all the different facets before I realize that they're Piscean. When Saturn is there, it's like the ultimate chaos pool. And if you are in the work of intuition and empathy and manifestations, what you are studying is the order that lies within chaos. And it's a subtler kind of order that has even less rules than what you might think when we think about order and chaos. So it is where order and chaos become a cycle and a ring. And that is what Saturn teaches us, or wants to try to teach us. That's the curriculum he's pushing when he's in this sign. And when he's retrograding, he's sort of throwing off the chaos factor. He's pushing on the different strings that change the tune of the song we're playing. And when it changes the tune, it's meant to train our ear for our manifestations. We're supposed to be able to hear how it's being bent out of tune and understand why. And all of that has been happening during this previous retrograde season, but when he turns forward, it's like he's now tuned the instrument back up, and we can pick out our song and know what is the note and what isn't the note that much better. So now there's going to be more movement in our manifestations because we have gotten so much more precise about calling in what we want, and it's really powerful now. When you tap the well, you're going to get a lot of water. So tap with understanding of what's sustainable for you. All right. Once that happens, lots of things happening. By November 8th, a couple things are going to happen. We have on the 8th where Venus moves into Libra, and this is a real strong calling of like big ideations, big creativity, big inspiration. It's sort of like the muses are going to start singing to all of us really strongly, and the creative space will be a more harmonious place to be. But then there is still the conversation of calling things in. Luckily, we have where Mercury moves into Sagittarius, and Mercury moving into Sagittarius on November 10th is sort of like we have the big dream, and suddenly we have the fire to cast the net and catch the fish we want. So, new desires and manifestations built upon the previous layer. This is important. So right now, at the beginning of this video, where you are when you're probably watching this video, we are not in that new dream space yet, but that new dream space is built on the layers we are clearing up and manifesting now. So after that full moon in Taurus does our final push, it's testing the integrity of what we've been manifesting and what we've been creating. And if that layer isn't solid and clear and level, what these new dreams are built upon will be off kilter when you bring them into reality. And that's not fun for a manifester. So doing this work of really getting right with yourself and your energy and your resources and all of that during Scorpio season, it's really stirring the pot for you and creating something and letting things marinate and steep and build, and it's building this beautiful stew. I feel like the power of like soup is very much like Scorpio energy too. Okay, then we end out Scorpio season with a new moon in Scorpio. It happens on November 13th. The only thing I want to say is that during something like this, in the lunar tides, when you have a full moon, we're at nice high tide, we get real clear perspective on things. At the new moon, it's time to make movements, but it's not time to calibrate. We should have already been doing a lot of that on those down currents during the waning phase of the moon. That's when we're like, measuring our maps and making sure we're clear on where we're going. It's sort of like if you're lost in the desert, you use the sun as it's setting to, figure out where you're going to head. And then you use that nighttime to move, and you use the stars to navigate. And you have to be clear on that in all of that process, because come daytime, you're going to find out when the sun rises if you were right or not. So in this new moon low tide, it's very easy to look down and get very negative. It's the human way to worry and find the problems so that we can survive. That's how our mortal coil mind is wired. But our higher spiritual self mind is wired for perseverance, is wired for joy, is wired for the higher vibrations in life. And if you're looking down, you're not going to get those. You got to keep your eyes on the stars. So during that Scorpio new moon, there's so much light to be seen, but you have to be looking in the right direction to see it. Because you'll go where you're looking. If you're looking down, you're not going to see nothing. So I'm going to pull some cards for the signs, because I said I would in the last video, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I know it can take forever to do this, so I'm going to go fast. I'm going to start with the water signs. Then I'm going to move through into the fire signs. Then I'm going to go into the earth signs, and then the air signs. So let's start with, in honor of birthday season, let's start with the Scorpios. All right. For the Scorpios, Page of Wands reverse. So during birthday season, listen, with all your compounding traumas and all the stuff going on, I can only imagine that birthday season is actually a little bit like, brings in a lot of like trauma and drama for you, because you're having to like celebrate yourself and you've been taught not to do that kind of stuff. So during all of this season, it's very easy to get burnt out. It's very easy to like poop on your own dreams and snuff out your passions. Be looking, if you're a client who's worked with me before and you're a Scorpio, be on the lookout in your inbox for the solar return reading, because it's something that I think you would really benefit from. As a sign that does have a lot of waves that you move through, if you can kind of know that they're coming and kind of have a headspace for them. The solar return reading really gives you that like month by month by month. And if you're not a Scorpio and you're still watching this anyway, maybe your moon's in Scorpio or your rising is in Scorpio, check it out. Be on the lookout for that come your birthday season. Because if you've worked with me before, I should have your sun sign and moon sign, and you're probably getting that email. All right, so let's move on from Scorpios. Watch out for the burnout is all I'm going to say to the Scorpios. For my Pisceans, Queen of Coins reversed. I should show you guys the cards. Queen of Coins reversed. To me, this is like, stop expecting so much of yourself right away. You have to understand the law of momentum and how how you have to baby step things even more. You put too much pressure on the front end, and you don't allow space. So you have to get your head in the game of baby steps and baby step by baby step. Like really expect less and less of yourself, because you are at more risk to expect too much of yourself and fail or not even try than you are to manage your expectations of self and do what's sustainable in the long run and actually succeed. Like that is more likely to be the outcome. So Cancers, Knight of Cups reversed. So to me, this is like, stop trying to be, I want to get this right. Don't try to be the knight in shining armor. Don't try to be, it's about expectation. Stop trying to be there for everyone else. Worry about yourself. Save yourself. Make sure you're on solid footing before you try to help anyone out. Your oxygen mask on before other people, because your oxygen mask is the thing you need to be focused on. At the beginning of this video, I talked about eyes on your own paper. That's the eyes on your own paper energy. So thank you, water signs. All right, so this is our fire signs. Starting out, I'm going to go in birthday month order, or birthday order from now. So Sagittarians, you got your 3 of Wands. That's a good card. Then my Aries, I've got a King of Coins reversed for you, and then a Page of Coins for my Leos. Hey, Leos. Okay, so 3 of Wands for my Sagittarians. This is a period of time when like you're starting to see the ships come in. You're starting to see the manifestations and pick them up. Pre-birthday season, the sun starts moving through your 12th house, which is the house of the unknown. And a fire sign like you guys pull on, you know how to like broadcast out really positive vibes that attract in really positive things. And as long as you're not burning out on your own fire, that 12th house unknown energy, which has that Saturn ring to it as well because of the Piscean connection. If you know astrology, you know. But that sort of like unknown space, you pull really powerful things from, really amazing gifts and synchronicities from that space. So you're gonna find that if you are open and available and you're free flowing enough and you're following your intuition and your gut and you're letting things lead you, then you'll find that you're wandering in upon really powerful happenstances that bring you a lot of really great things. So bear that in mind. Thank you, Sagittarius. So Aries, with the King of Coins reversed, to me, this is an energy of like, you guys are so like, go, 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 be on top of the mountain, conquer the thing. Can you shift that and start enjoying the mountaintops that you're on? Because I think that you're so go, 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 drive, 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 that has to turn off during Scorpio season, because manifestationally, I don't think that that's going to work inside this energy. There's not like, you're not going to get to anything, to the top of anything during this month that is particularly exhilarating and exciting. And in fact, instead, you should tend to yourself and give yourself that rest and that space. Like, there's no fight you're going to win. There's no thing you're going to conquer, no treasure you're going to get. It's not about that, the manifestations that are happening right now and where the potential energy is lying. It's so much more in the lessons. So it is about kind of turning inward and looking at yourself and tending to yourself and balancing yourself again. So Leos, you have the Page of Coins. So to me, with that energy, it's very different than the Aries message. It's more about like, there are some things that you have been working on, some irons in your fire, some seeds you've planted, and those plants are starting to bear fruit. And it is time to like figure out, all right, what do I want to do with this? How do I transmute this into something that sustains me some more? And it is that work that the Scorpio season will focus on for you, as that like perpetual fire that's always burning. This is a period of time where Scorpio is going to help you clean out the fire pit without putting you out. And that's really refreshing for a fire sign, I think. All right, so thank you, fire signs. Let's move on to earth signs. Let's get into our earth signs. So let's start with Capricorn, because y'all have your birthday coming up in this coming winter. So Capricorn, 5 of Wands. Girl. Okay. So Capricorn, you have the 5 of Wands. This is combative energy. This is having energy where like it feels like you're fighting on all fronts. And that is so a symptom of your mindset and your thinking. You have to pick your battles. You have to decide, where is it not your pig, not your farm? Where is it not your thing, not your trouble? Like, honor that some lessons are not for you to solve, they're for other people. It isn't about letting people fail. It's about letting people really go through the journey. And I think that same tough love is part of what you need. You do need to balance it with like encouraging kind of self-love and self-talk, but you do need the tough love of like, hey, you need these lessons you're going through too. And maybe it's like a humbling journey, and maybe that's good for you, and you kind of like that anyway sometimes. So that's Capricorn. So Taurus, you have King of Wands reversed, which is same kind of energy I told Aries of like, this is not a time to go conquer the mountain. This is not a time to go do the thing. This is not a time to like try to like claim your throne and sit in it so much. That was really pre-Scorpio season for everyone. And now you're in a space of like, don't try to conquer anything, because any control you try to exert right now during Scorpio season, nobody's in the space to receive any of that well. All of your control needs to be more of like loving, friendly dad energy, not any kind of like captain or like boss energy. You'll be better served with other people if you let things flow a little and let time show you patterns more than you try to fix anything. That's my advice. So Virgo, y'all have been riding in your power since birthday season. I've seen it in all the Virgos around me. There is a lot of finding out who you are inside some storms, and that's really nice. So you have the 2 of Swords, which to me is saying like the finding out who you are thing. There is so many polarities and dichotomies that we are taught to think in. The mind really knows things only through the polarity of like opposites. So you either are something or aren't something to a certain degree, and you're being shown where you are things and aren't things, but you need to remind yourself that is not always so. I have it tattooed on my arm, not always so. The reminder that what is true most of the time is not true all of the time. It's not always true for everyone. It's assuming that something is only one way or another that's going to mess you up the most. You can be somewhere in between, and that's powerful. You don't have to be all perfect and good. You can also be a little, petty sometimes, and maybe that's fine. If you watch Real Housewives, you will learn that America loves people who can be both. So, that is the earth signs. Let's get to the air signs and round this video out. Air signs, you're the most patient of them all. That's why I leave you for last. Also, you probably fast forwarded to the end. So, Libra. No, Libra, you're last. This is for the Aquarians. Justice reversed. And this came up in that last week. This was one of the card pulls. So I think the message is the same. So Aquarius, during Scorpio season, you have to remember life isn't fair. And that is something that can be good for you. That's something you can use to your advantage. Because if you don't, it can be also used to your disadvantage. So if life isn't fair and equal and balanced, there's nothing wrong with you having more. There's nothing wrong with you being more, because we're not all meant to be equal and the same in that way. We're not all meant to be level. Otherwise, we would all be level. It's the variation in the human experience that is cultivating the human collective. And like, you understand that better than anybody. So why can't you be on the top of that mountain for once? Why you guys got to be at the bottom of the ocean? Why? Because you're the martyr having to bear that? Cut that out, Aquarius. I'm talking to myself here. Okay, so thank you, Aquarius. Gemini, the Hermit. So, okay. I'm thinking about the Geminis I know. I think of what's going on for the Gemini energy inside Scorpio, because inside this transmutational energy, that is a lot of like vacillating to different variances in between the extremes, and Gemini is about the extremes. Gemini is in these different places, and your perspective is a different flash point within the room, and you're very aware of all things, but only through certain perspectives, and it's very hard to remember where you sit and remember that your perspective needs to be moved through as well, not just you flashing into other perspectives and viewpoints. So in those what I'm saying is the difference between like an instance and time. So like, just because you've walked through a situation, like a room that has a situation going on, doesn't mean that you know exactly what's going on. And sometimes it's important to remind yourself of that like, there are so many different things that can vary in a moment that will give you more information. So it's the difference between like a white tea and just sort of like letting the bag steep for a wee little bit, or like a very like strong tea that needs to steep for a while and the flavors really need to bloom. Steep in the tea, Gemini. So Libra, 10 of Cups. So there's a lot of emotional fulfillment that you will gain from Scorpio season, because you like getting into all that stuff and working through things. You like when emotional labor is filled with progress and productivity. And this kind of time leaves room for those kinds of conversations. And as the sign of relationships, I know you want to take that energy and bring it all to other people, but I wouldn't. I would really bring that with the conversations you have with yourself. Let those be the productive things. Let those be the progress, because the conversations you have with yourself are huge and important. So that's all of the that's all of the cards and all the things and all the horoscopes for Scorpio season. And my advice to all of you, and things to bear in mind. I want to thank you so much for being subscribed to my newsletter. I want to thank you so much for those of you who follow me on Instagram. If you're interested in working with me and becoming a client, check out my website, mindful-michael.com. I have a ton of services. I do tarot readings. I do birth chart readings. I am also a certified hypnotherapist. So if there's something that you are dealing with that is like actually an intense problem that's messing with your life, maybe hypnotherapy is the solution for you. Schedule a discovery call. It's complimentary. And we can have a whole conversation and figure out if hypnotherapy is a solution for you. Just might be. So thank you so much for watching this video. We're already almost at 30 minutes, so I'm going to cut it off here. Remember, you are light, you are love, and you are meant to be here in this world, in this time, because somebody's got to bring this vibration up. Come on now. All right. Thanks so much. Bye.